Hi everyone, welcome back to this new episode of Time for Wastewater. If I'm right, if I'm counting right, it's number 7. Hi
Yeah,
Björn,
you are counting right. Good afternoon, Antoine.
how are you
So
today?
I'm very fine. I'm really excited because we have a very special episode today. First of all, it's number 7, and what I've realized over the last days is that we have meanwhile so many people who regularly watching us. It's incredible. It's really incredible. So I'm really proud and really honored that we have so many people who really follow this show. Thank you guys. Thanks for having you on board here.
Well, as usual, if you're watching us and if you're joining us in the mood for the next hour, just drop a word in the chat. Just tell us hi, where you are from, what you're at right now. We will be watching and collecting the chat today, like every time. I've read that many shows stop at episode 7. So we
Oh,
are passing
really?
that mark. We are really passing that mark. Let's do it. And if we are still live next month, then that means we're up to something. Well, we have a packed agenda for today, so I propose you to switch directly to the credits and then we go
Please.
directly in the topic. So see you on the other side of the credits. Are you tired of biased presentations that show you only one side of a story? Do you want to go to the bottom of all the hot water and wastewater challenges? Every month, Björn and Antoine take sides and fight over a topic. They might be over the top. You may even disagree with one or both of them, but you'll always have a chance to be vocal about it. In the end, one thing is certain. They will light a topic from every angle to make sure it is in plain sight for everyone. Are you ready to rumble? It's time for wastewater! Hi Sheldon, hi Adam. So many people. Hi Diresh. I'm gonna miss some of you. Let me just, before I give you the mic, Björn, to introduce the topic, let me tell you that we will have 3 special games today with some
Really?
goodies for all of you to take home. I can't show you right now the goodie package, but trust me, it's going to be a nice little piece. Don't expect a car, but there's something to win. So at 3 times during our show, I'll be asking a question. The first one to give the right answer in the chat is going to win the prize. As simple as that. So that being said,
Antoine, one question.
yeah,
But not a frog leg, right? You
it's
will
not
not
a frog leg.
you will not send a frog leg from France, right?
No worries. We don't do that day in, day out. We are also civilized people sometimes. So, dear Mr. German, that's already making jokes on my country. What's our topic for today?
Today we have a special topic because so much happened over the last months. So we said, hey, we have to put everything together because we have really a kind of rumble in the water industry. A lot of companies were acquired. A lot of companies are for sold. Lots of things really happen. Everybody was talking about the acquisition of Suez by Viola, right? But there was so much more. And we want to go into a little bit into detail. We want to talk about this kind of investment model. So that means acquisition as business model by the companies. And we want to put some companies out, and we want to explain what really happened. We want to talk about the pump suppliers. What's our pump suppliers, right? Why are they acquiring OEMs and EPCs so far? So we want to talk about Suez and Veolia. We have to. I have a French colleague here over there. So we have to talk about this topic as well. But there's so much more, especially if it comes to some other companies, some German companies, if it comes to Ovivo, if it comes to, I don't want to tell too much. First thing we should clarify first. So it is because I said already, kind of acquisition as business model. And we have to define 3 different ways of acquisition. We have first, we have the classical finance investor, right? It's a kind of finance company who is investing into companies, mostly with a green label for our industry, because we have somehow a green label, right? Means there are finance investors who are, let's say, investing in companies in our water industry. Maybe they restructure a little bit, but in the end, they want to have some more money out of that. And so they are going to the market again after a couple of years, hopefully and they get some more money, right? Look at, for instance, XPU Water. They are just looking for some water companies and they want to put them in the portfolio, and at a later stage they want to sell them. So that's fine, right? These are some of the classical investors. But on the other hand, we have the strategic investors. These are mostly companies from the same or similar industry, even from our one. So, and with that acquisition, if they acquire another company, they are looking for synergy effects. I know this word is somehow a buzzword, and we will talk about this today, but they are looking for, with the synergies, to get access to technology or to a market. But in the end, they have just one goal. They want to grow. They want to increase the company value with these acquisitions, right? I mean, there are some companies on the market, they have just too much money. They have no clue what to do with that. That's why they are, acquiring a couple of companies. I'm not saying that Grundfos and Eurowater was one of them, but Grundfos was definitely a strategic decision to take Eurowater into the portfolio. And one more thing, we have to separate as well if it comes to the strategic investment, because there you can have a horizontal investment, means some kind of cross-selling. For instance, if you are a dosing pump supplier, to put chemicals into your portfolio to have more for the client would be somehow of horizontal investment. But the other one would be the vertical investment, which means either an EPC is going for a technology supplier or other way around, right?
You
One
mentioned
more,
vertical just before. Sorry
yeah,
to interrupt you, but just
yeah,
let's define. You mentioned EPC, just that we all agree on the terms.
yeah,
Um,
please,
we have the technology supplier on the very bottom, right, of that pyramid. If you see the water sector as a pyramid, then the second layer would be the OEM or the integrator. The third layer would be the EPC. And then you have the consultant and the end user. So when we're saying the EPC is the one putting the full project together. So when you say vertical, it's, for instance, you're a technology supplier and you're going to acquire an OEM, or the other way around. And when you say
correct,
horizontal, it's an EPC buying an EPC, or do we agree on
correct.
the terms?
I agree, and hopefully most of our visitors will do same. So that means we have the horizontal and verticals, we have the financial and the strategic investments. But there's one more way, and this is a special way because it's a kind of hybrid. This kind of hybrid is a mix of a financial investor with a strategic approach. So that means, on the one hand, they bring all the money with, but they invest in companies which fit together. So that means, compared to the first one, to the classical financial investor, that would mean they acquire a company, for instance, an APC, and take a technology supplier which fit to this APC, right? And so they are building these kind of systems. They're building these conglomerate, right, to have a very strong, strong portfolio, a very strong company at all. For instance, if you look at under Sauer we have Nyhus, and Nyhus acquired EconWord for the biologic wastewater treatment, and especially if it comes to anaerobic digesters, there are not so many on the market. So that means Nyhus has access to this. So this is a kind of hybrid, and there's one very interesting company. I will take the name right now, but I will talk about this later, which is Skion Water, which is a kind of hybrid, and we will jump into this topic in a later. But one more
Be worried
word.
you're staying on Skion because they are watching us.
Damn. So I have to be careful. But one more word about the synergy effect, which is, as I said, is a kind of buzzword. But based on a study by the Goethe University in Frankfurt, 2/3 of all acquisitions worldwide, not only in the water industry, fail. One
2/3.
reason, 2/3. One reason, synergy effects. And one very prominent example would be Inge Membranes. Inge Membranes started in 2020, was acquired in 2011 by BASF because of synergy as a fact, and was sold to DuPont in 2020 because there are no synergies as a fact. You can read this in the press release by this company. So be careful if you hear the buzzword synergy effects. So I think we are now clear what we are talking about. But let's jump in, because we have a very big topic. Maybe our friend in France can tell us a little bit the latest news about the acquisition by Viola. Is there any news? Is it done?
Well, just right before we talk about that, let's just take a minute about the synergy effect, because you now phrase it like there is no synergy effect, and it's not true. If you look at the various studies, there's a study from McKinsey which was looking at the synergy effect, and it's true that they are lower than expected, but still they exist. So the thing is, it's a bit like you're lying to yourself. You're trying to make it look a bit better than it really is. You desperately want to acquire a company, and you see synergies everywhere. And in fact, there are some synergies, just not to the extent that you're advertising. So I think we have to put a bit of water in your wine here. And right before I jump into the Suez versus Veolia topic, let me just play a little card here. Because you've mentioned SOAR. And actually, that is going to be the first question of my quiz today. Because when I was doing my research for that live today, I was looking into the stories of SOAR, and SOAR acquired Nihus recently, but SOAR has also a full history of being acquired, sold, acquired, sold, acquired, sold. So I'm going to ask you a question about SOAR for all the people which are watching that in the chat. If you're watching the replay, well, you can also answer that. Note your answer for that first question. You can also note your answer for the next questions I'm going to ask in our show today, and then you can send them to me per DM, and you'll also get a chance to win a prize. I'll tell you a bit more a bit later. But for the one which are in the chat right now, we are playing for our first game today, and the question is, over the last 15 years, how many times has SOAR changed hands? So, how many times did you have a new proprietary for SOAR? Let's look at who's going to be the first to answer that one.
Can I give a tip?
You can give a tip.
Can I?
Yeah. Oh, that is a strong tip.
Hey, come on, I want to help that they get the prize. I'm the good one.
Okay, we have Sheldon saying it's 4. It's more. It's more. Um, so who's going to be next to try to give an answer here? Actually, I said 15. Viren says 8. Sandeep says 7. Missing the. Oh, ho, ho. We have a winner. We have a winner.
Who is it? Sheldon Young.
I think it's
Come on.
Sheldon. I think it's Sheldon. So congrats, Sheldon. You're number 1. So you'll be the winner. And yes, it's 5 actually. I'm not going to take you through the full list, but what you have to remember here is that SOAR was for a certain time under Bouygues, and when Bouygues decided to sell, they did one of these financial moves that you just alluded to, Björn, and they sold the company, and then it was in the hands of various investment funds, and at some point they were almost broke. So when they were almost broke, the banks took over, and then the banks were holding SOAR, and then they took it back, and then they sold it again, and actually it's in the hands uh, of an investment fund. So just to say, there's a lot of investment fund currently playing around in water. There's a good reason for that. It has been defined to me by an investor, which you will hear tomorrow on the Don't Waste Water podcast, who was telling me that the water industry is a very high growth market. So they are looking at our industry and they are thinking we are a high growth market. It's interesting because when we ourselves look at our industry, sometimes we're a bit shy and we're like, yeah, come on, we come after all the others. But it turns out that when you start looking a bit deeper into the industry, there is some growth to make. Okay, so that was it for our first quiz, and let me take you a bit through the Suez Veolia story. I'm not going to bore you with all the elements, but to recall you, Suez and Veolia are probably today the number 1 and number 2 companies in the water world, and they've been fighting for almost 150 years. Several times there was a bit this debate, who is going to win, who is going to take over the other. There were various projects, and it all started again last year in July when NG, which at that time was still owning a high share of Suez, said that they want to go out of Suez. So at the time they were owning 32% of Suez, and they said, okay, we want to go out of Suez, and they put that on the market. And we were expecting the markets to do an IPO or to sell it on the stock exchange. And instead of what, in the middle of the summer, Veolia came out and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to buy it." And of course, Suez wasn't very happy with that. But in August, Veolia offered to buy Suez and almost 30% of Suez. So that was the first main move. Suez said, "No, I'm not happy with that." So Veolia said, "Hey, okay, I'm going to put a higher price." And Suez was still not happy. But Engie said, "Come on, guys, that's quite a fair price for Suez. So let me accept that." And that's how Veolia first got hold of 29.9% of Suez, which was the maximum they could acquire before going into two complex ways of M&A. So that was the first move. And then Suez did quite a smart move or illegal move, depends on which end you are. They created what they call the poison pill. Basically, they created a foundation in the Netherlands, and they put one share of Suez Eau France and one share of Suez Group SAS in that Dutch-based foundation, which meant that that Dutch foundation, which was holding only one share of Suez, now had a veto right over Suez. So if Veolia was to acquire the full Suez, they could not sell Suez Eau France. And that's important because, they are big, but not that big in the world if you consider that those two companies together are maybe 5% of the market. But in France, they are hegemonic. So if Suez buys Veolia or Veolia buys Suez, they will have to sell a part of the French assets. But now with that poison pill, Suez basically was saying, "Hey, you cannot sell me," and you can play it with a little song, "Hey, you cannot sell me," something like that. It's more a bit of that kind of move. So that was a bit difficult because that was putting a big hold on the full game. But when you have these kind of problems in France, you have a simple option, which is you go to court. You go to court, you start going to every kind of different courts. And I'm not going into the full details, but if you want to have a deep dive into that court story, it's really fascinating because they went to the wrong court and then they went to the right court. And really, it's really a cool topic. There's a very cool blog from Global Water Intelligence, which is taking you through all that steps if you want to have a deeper look at that. After that, Suez was trying to bring those financial investors into the game and say, "Hey, can you please buy me so that it's not Veolia taking over?" But that didn't happen. So they had to move it and to play it a bit differently. And Veolia was publishing in February this year a tender to take the full remaining 70% of Suez. They said they can even make a higher price than the price they were offering. Suez was backfire as much as possible, even pushing this poison pill. But finally, the 12th of April, they decided that, okay, Veolia won, Suez gives up, and Veolia buys Suez. Now, that doesn't mean that you take Veolia and Suez, you merge them, and you put them together. That's not how it works, because still you have this problem of competition and competition rules. So to overcome that, there will be a mini Suez, which is going to be extracted from the full thing, and a big part of Suez, which is going to go to Veolia. Basically, and to summarize and to end up that story for today, before that full move, you had Veolia, which was representing about 26 billion euro in the market, and Suez, which was representing 18 billion in the market. And after the move, you will have Veolia plus a part of Suez, which will be representing 37 billion euros, and a mini Suez, but that mini Suez is still going to be a 7 billion company, which means the mini Suez is no longer the number 2 in the world, because that new rank is the rank of Ecolab. Now, if you look at the world ranking, but it's still number 3. So it's still a significant part. And now there's the interesting part here, is that full story started because, in France, you need to have the government's approval if you want to make such a move. And to get the government's approval, or at least to get the government not saying no straightforward, what Veolia was playing as a little music was, "Hey, if I don't buy Suez, then the Chinese will do it." And that's how the government didn't say absolutely yes, do it, but they weren't that strongly opposed. And that Chinese part of the market is honestly nowadays still a blind spot, don't you think, Björn?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I will come to this in a minute, but I have one more question after for your entire explanation. I mean, the entire process I think is much complicated, right? Really, really complicated.
If you want to have a good laugh, look at the court story where
Yeah, but but
one
but
time they
but but
win,
the,
one
but,
time
but
they
the
lose.
point is, when we are talking about about market share, capitals, and stock price, and all those things, what about the people? What about the people? I mean, for so long, the Suez people were fighting against the Veolia people, and now they have to wear the shirt from one day on that they are now Veolia and no longer Suez.
Yeah,
How does this really work? My question here really is, were the people really involved in the acquisition? From
no,
my
not at all.
sources, no,
Not at all.
not at all, right? And I think this is a very dangerous thing, because you have now the Suez people. They have to be now the shirt from Veolia. And I'm pretty sure that so many, especially the older ones who are with Veolia since, I don't know, decades, they think, what the hell is going
Yeah,
on here, right? I think don't underestimate the most important factor of each and every company are the people. And you have to take the people with.
you're
And
gonna say
I'm
culture eats strategy for breakfast. You're gonna say
yeah,
that. You're gonna say the
yeah,
sentence. I know it.
but the point is, I'm really looking for how Veolia will manage this, and whether Veolia is really able to manage this.
If I may, Björn, I kind of disagree with you here. Uh, because generally speaking, you're right, and it's true that for some people you're team green or you're team red, and you don't say, "Hey, I'm going to switch my colors so easily." But I would kind of amend a bit of that for I would say three reasons. The first reason is, the water industry isn't that big, so you happen to work for several companies, and it happens that you go from one to the other. And if you're working for multiple companies within the same sector, chances are that at some point of your career you're working for both of them. So it's not everyone which is just tattooed with Suez or Veolia on your
Mm,
chin. So that's the first one. The second one is that both of those companies are practicing what they called very diplomatically a strategic rotation of their assets, which means that very regularly they just say, "Hey, my hand is no longer that useful. I'm going to sell my hand," and then the hand goes to Veolia, and Veolia say, "Hey, my ankle is not so useful, so I'm going to sell it," and then Suez buys that ankle. So if you look at those companies as Frankensteins, somehow parts of the Frankenstein already moved from one part to the other. But
let's see. It will be a surprise, and let's talk in 2 3 years again. What
yeah,
really has
actually,
happened?
there is one thing, and it's very interesting because I was actually today discussing with some Suez people, uh, and we were discussing about big project, because those companies are EPCs, which means sometimes they're involved in very large projects. So now imagine you've signed a very large project as Suez. So years in the making, a decade in the making. That many of those projects really are cooking for a decade. So you've been cooking that project, you've been signing that contract, you've been taking guarantees on the process, and now you're no longer
Mm,
part of Suez.
mm,
I mean,
true.
your part of Suez moves to Veolia, but
Yeah.
all the technical directions, the technical direction of Suez were most of them in France. So they stay with the mini Suez. So now Veolia will have to build and operate plants under the design of people which are now from another company and holding guarantee for the next 20 years without having the brain which has conceived the plant. And that to me is much more tricky than really this intrication of will you accept to work for another company. So you're right. I'm not saying you're fully wrong. I'm just saying, again, like I was saying a bit with the synergies, there's a bit
Yeah.
two side of that story. You have to manage also that. I mean, I can bet you there will be many lawsuits between those two companies in a close future. It's not possible otherwise.
Yeah. Anyway, but let's say I would like to jump back, because you mentioned a very quick question. What would happen if this didn't happen? Would the Chinese come over? And what I have realized is, or let's say what I saw, which was published at the Harvard Business Review, I think 2 months ago. It was a study from the Otto Bensheim School in Germany, a management school, and they were looking for all the acquisitions which were made by Chinese in Germany, right, between the period of 2008 to 2016, and they were looking to that, and they realized that all the companies went down. All the companies went down. and that's dramatically, right? Because all the acquisitions they have really made didn't really wrong good. So the question was, why did that happen? And the first thing is, what they identified is that all the Chinese companies, they wanted to have 100% shares. They didn't want to have minority shares. They want to take the entire cake, right? So they were not looking for a minority or just 50%. No, they were all looking for 100% for whatever reason. Furthermore, the rentability of the companies which are acquired compared to the companies who were not acquired at the same time were 2% lower. So it was a drop of rentability of 2% by all the companies. So very interesting. The other thing is that most companies, Chinese companies, were looking for the technology only. They didn't came, in many cases, not from the same industry. So they had no idea about the industry they go into. They just saw, hey, there's a German company. Hey, they have a good product and they want to acquire that. So they came just and didn't brought some synergies effects. They just wanted to take out the technology. So that's very dangerous. And that's why the school, management school said, was one of the reasons why all the acquisitions failed, right?
I think you're missing the elephant in that room. You're
Which
really
one?
missing the elephant in the room.
Which one?
How difficult is it to buy a German company? Because if you're
Exactly.
buying a German
It
company,
is. It is.
it's
Yeah,
full of
yeah, yeah.
Germans.
No, yeah. Honestly, yeah, it is.
Yeah, no,
But there was exactly good question. Good that you raised that, because you could say, hey, maybe there's an intercultural clash between the Germans, and maybe the Germans they doesn't want that. But there was the same study, or let's say a different study, from companies who were acquired by Austrian companies. German companies acquired by Austria. Yeah, I mean, some would laugh. Yeah, even this can happen, that
I'm
an
not going to
Austrian
make a
company
bad
is
joke here.
acquiring a German company. But all these acquisitions showed a different number. They all went way better. Way better. It is not that the Germans are so protective and saying, hey, there's a Chinese coming, I don't want to work with them. It is because they understand a little better, and they were from the same industry, and the management skills and the management behavior is maybe in Europe different as in Asia.
Yeah, because
So I wouldn't blame
Germans
the
like the
Germans. I
Austrian
wouldn't blame the
management.
Germans.
It's well known, and there's one famous example of the Germans loving the Austrian management. I had to say it, Björn. I'm sorry. No, but jokes aside, it is true. If you look in Europe, when we say Europe, come on,
Yeah.
it's not a Spanish company buying a German company. I would expect the same clash than with the Chinese. Honestly, you're giving the example of Austria.
Not as much. I mean, all the
Look at
companies
coming back
went
to
down from the rentability. All.
yeah, but
That's the point. That's the point.
look back at every single time Veolia, Soar, Suez, Séché bought companies in Germany, and that happened regularly. It always failed. So the
Yeah,
cultural clash.
but think about all the North American companies who acquired German companies. Maybe this is a clash between of France and Germany,
Yeah,
right?
what I'm
I mean,
saying is that
we all
Germans
know
has
that it
limited
doesn't
number
work.
of
We
yeah.
can see it right now, right? It doesn't work. The French and the Germans doesn't work together. So we have to be very blunt. No, but joke aside, again, the acquisitions by North America into the German market went way better as from the China. So that is the interesting point. I fully agree that the acquisitions by French companies into the German market, even they went really bad in some cases.
Let me just bounce that argument from Sheldon at you, just to see what you think of that. I mean, that is something which comes quite regularly. It's you're into topics like infrastructure or things like that, where it's a bit sensitive because there is an element of national, even nationalism. Let's use the big words here. Don't you think that also comes a bit into play? Like, I'm not going to give my very best because do I really want a foreign company to do something about the water of my country? It is something which comes in the way.
I mean, think about the study. The study was not about the water industry. The study was about German companies in general who were acquired by Chinese companies. So it is not only about the infrastructure in our water industry. That would be my point.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But when we say it's not about the infrastructure, come on, we cannot use the same argument in all the different angles and just drag it around. When we say the industry is conservative, we say, yeah, no, it's not because we're conservative, it's because it's water, it's life. We are 99% water, so we have to be careful with water. I mean, same applies here, even if it's not directly the pipes which are in the ground and which are really the infrastructure. When you are operating or providing the technology, which is something so sensitive, I mean, you are building. When we say a green revolution or an energy nexus or whatever, we are always not mentioning the blue parts, but it's really more blue-green movement. And when a government is investing heavily, it's probably going to invest a bit more in a company which he knows for sure is 100% from his country.
Okay, let's. I mean, I will give you an example. Maybe then you're better with that, because there's one company who was awarded in 2017 by GWI, one of the leader in membrane producer, right? So it was an awarded company in 2017, which went insolvent this year. So, and it was acquired by a Chinese company in 2017. So the company I'm talking about is ITN Nanovation. ITN Nanovation is was one of the companies who were in the technology or in the field of ceramic membrane technology. So they were based in Saarbrücken, right? So, and it went well up to a certain point. They went to stock market. They were established, I think, in 2001. For whatever reason, they came in trouble for sure, and they were looking for a financial investor, and a Chinese company came on board. Safbon took 100% of the shares, exchanged the entire management, wanted to take out the technology, and failed totally. The company failed totally. In 2021, they went to court because they had to say, hey, we are insolvent. And the reason why is they exchanged the entire management. They wanted to have a production in China. Only ITN in Saarbrücken would benefit from the license of this business over there, but they could never bring any further projects or orders from China. So, and that was a little bit the issue here. And the interesting part, if you are listed at the stock market, you can read the financial reports, and it is so much fun reading financial reports. If you love that,
Björn.
I know that, but I saw in 2016. In 2016, this company was just roughly acquired by Safbon, and the revenue was 469,000 euros only. It's around a 3 to 5 million revenue company. Right? So this year was a horrible year. They went to 400 plus. At the same time, the CEO got 600,002 salary with all bonuses. And this is something, I would not blame directly the Chinese for that, but I would blame really something went wrong. If you have a company with a revenue of 400,000 and the CEO gets 600 for this and this and that and that, something really went wrong. And if you really look into the numbers,
let's not enter into the debate of the salary of the CEO, because if we start and we open
but this is fun to see that. But if you have 400,000 only in revenue and the CEO is taking 600 out of the company, that doesn't make any sense. It's the same if you drive a 100,000 euro car while your company is in financial struggling.
Let me try to understand what you're saying here, Björn, because all your examples really give like the impression that an M&A move is always bad. Is it?
No, I'm not saying always. I will come to a very good example later on. I just want to underline a little bit that if a finance investor, especially a Chinese one, is not the holy saint. Every company.
Why do you think that a Chinese investor cannot succeed in the German market?
I'm not saying it cannot. I'm saying we have
It
seen
did not.
examples and studies that mostly and it went wrong. I could
But
also put
why? Why?
Supratech on the table, right? Which went really well.
Yeah, but still, why?
Why? Because they don't understand, mostly from the study is that they coming from a different industry. They don't understand the industry. They just want to have access to their market with the technology. So what they are looking for is taking the technology into the market and say, hey,
Yeah, but
we are the hero.
not
So and
understanding
it
the
doesn't work,
technology is
especially if you just take the Chinese owner and put it into the management system. It doesn't work.
not understanding the technology is not specific to China. I mean, honestly, and it's
No,
something.
but just looking on the technology doesn't mean that you are successful in taking a technology and saying, hey, this is a cool technology works in Europe or in Germany, and I can bring it to China and which is open the market.
No, but
You have to understand what is behind.
what I want to ask here, is you we. I mean, we had the discussion many times about how finance understands the water sector and all of that. And to me, the question is there one. I mean, it's not a majority of finance investors that understand the water market. There's a reason why we are quite undervalued, and it's an opportunity. I mean, it's a huge opportunity. It means we are a very growth market, to repeat what I was saying at the beginning. So to me, here you're just saying uh, those Chinese investors were daring to invest even though they don't understand the market, when others just don't dare to invest. But it's not about being Chinese or not. They tried something, didn't work, but it's about understanding the water market. And that is difficult because the water market is difficult to grasp. The water market is very scattered. The water market is very special by nature. The water market, as we were discussing minutes ago, has this infrastructure aspect which is sensitive, but also the water market is just a special beast, and it's not
Yeah,
that
but
easy
this
to
special
capture that
beast,
beast.
even you can handle this special beast. Even you can handle the special beast from the financial investor perspective. Do
Well,
you know how?
no.
You go with your third strategy. We said classical investment, we said strategic investment, and the hybrid. And I would like to talk about a company which is called
No,
Ski
no,
on
no, no, no,
Water.
no, no, no. Wait, wait, wait.
Let's,
Wait. Before we go to that one, first, I like to take that one because that sounds very right. I mean, you're saying it failed because, yeah, from a German perspective, it failed, but who knows? Maybe,
yeah,
Germany.
but Safbon in total failed even in China, meanwhile. So they are struggling.
Okay, okay, but nevertheless, I would say that is not so much of an impossibility. But just to say, um, we are mentioning all the examples that went somehow wrong, and I didn't go into the examples. Not that I was always to cover Suez and Veolia, but Suez acquiring Nalco and it failed, Veolia acquiring US Filter and it failed,
Yeah.
and not going into the Veolia Universal because that obviously failed. But what I wanted to highlight here is that there are some companies on the water market which are
Oh yeah.
made, and that's a bit what you said with your introduction with the strategic aspect. It's not
Mhm.
vertical, it's not horizontal. I don't know exactly how you define that, but I think your definition was quite good. um, those companies succeeded, and I don't know what they have which is special that make them succeed. I'm thinking here of companies like Danaher, like Xylem, which are companies made of acquisition. What makes those companies special? That they digest so much better an M&A than others do. And even if you take Suez, we're taking Suez, but Suez is a merger between Suez and Lyonnaise des Eaux, and that worked. That made quite a good company. And Lyonnaise des Eaux itself is a merger between Lyonnaise des Eaux and De Gremont, and that worked. So why does it sometimes stick, sometimes not? That's a bit my difficulty here to grasp. As a muggle, honestly, I think you're much more of a finance guy than I am. So I'm really a muggle here. I'm trying to understand
Mhm.
what is your best bet. Let's take Xylem. Why does Xylem has this strong company culture despite being an absolute Frankenstein when you look at it?
They are somehow able to integrate the companies into the organization. This is what many companies are struggling with, and they are failing with this, to integrate a new company into the organization to have the same culture. And they are somehow able to handle this. Don't ask me why. My contacts are not so good with Salem so far. But what I see on the market is it somehow works. Maybe it is because of they are just going into the horizontal direction. Not sure how much they go in the vertical, right? So they are really looking for the companies who could, which could fit together, and not that you have, I don't know, a dosing pump station and a construction building company, something like this, right? So they are really looking for companies who could fit from the technology aspect, that they have synergies. Sorry again, maybe from R&D perspective, that they have similar cultures. I don't know whether there are any companies among which are from different places of the world. I think they are very concentrated on the North American market, right?
I have one more question in that direction for you, and then I'll leave you go to your example that you want to give. But right
Yeah.
before, it's time
Oh, a
for
quiz.
our So once again, the rules are simple. If you're watching live, I'm going to ask you a question. The first one to give the right answer, and this answer is going to be plus minus 20. So plus minus 20. Keep that in mind before I ask the question. So if you're watching live, type it in the chat. The first one to give the right answer, plus minus 20, wins a prize. And if you're watching that in the replay, well, that's the point in time where you take your note pen and you write the second answer, and you'll need to have the 3 right and to send it to me in order to have a chance to win a prize as well. So my question is, I was looking at the track record of mergers and acquisition in the water industry for 2021. So we are today the 7th of September 2021. So starting the 1st of January 2021 up to now, how many M&A were listed in the world of water? Again, plus minus 20. I can help you a bit here if you wish.
I don't have. I can't really help because I think my fingers are
So that's a way
limited.
to help. When I was running the question at Björn when we were preparing for the show, he was guessing something which was 10 times too low. So that gives you kind of an idea of the magnitude we're talking here.
Yeah.
I was checking the record from GWI. So you see, we have been giving quite negative things about GWI on the previous show. So today I'm talking quite positively about GWI. So I think that compensates somehow. We have a first answer of 20. No. You have a factor
T- t-
wrong with 20. Um, let's see if that one goes up a bit, because
yeah.
I tell you, it's quite
At,
higher
at,
than
at
20.
least at least another zero.
That was, hey, here you were helping quite a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Come on. We always playing bad cop and good cop, and we decided as the last editorial meeting that I'm this time the good cop, right? And you are the bad cop, right? Did we?
Okay, so I didn't know that. So I have to be a bit more punchy and aggressive. Julie
Yeah,
is much
Julie.
closer. So
Yeah, Julie is
you're
close. Julie is really close.
closer, but still not. It's still too
Uh,
low. Okay, Adrian
oh,
is now an overkill. Uh, Burnt is no. The closest so far is Julie.
yep,
So I'll give
definitely.
you, let's say, 30 more seconds. And in 30 more seconds, if no one is closer than Julie, then I'm going to give the prize to Julie.
Julie, take
So,
the age of your son out, the 200, and then you are very close. Hmm?
so
Anyway, come on.
let's
We have so much on the topic here.
yeah,
Who's the winner?
let's take 10 more seconds. I think we have some delay with the various.
No, minus Julie. Julie, minus,
No,
not
no, no,
plus.
no, 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 no. No, it's much closer. See, that guy is wrong. Don't listen to. He's telling you he's the good cup, but he's not the good
No, no.
cup. Because you're
Oh, that's
almost there. I'm gonna give you the prize. Actually,
true. You're right. I was
Julie,
wrong.
you win. Uh, the right number was 270.
Yeah, I
So
was. Yeah, you're
270
right.
M&A since the beginning of the year. So you see, quite impressive. Not all of them were big ones, but that is the total. So okay, That was question number 2. If you're still watching the replay, note it down. There will be a question number 3. But right before I let you move to your case study, I have a last question for you, Björn. You mentioned how Xylem and so on were successful because probably they go horizontal. But what about vertical integration? Because all the bad examples I gave you, Suez and Nalco, Veolia and US Filter, all of them were vertical integration. So does that mean that vertical integration doesn't work and that you should always go for horizontal? Let's
Oh,
take an
oh,
example here. What about the Eurowater and Grundfos one?
yeah, that was pretty interesting. I mean, that was a little bit under the radar because Grundfos is in principle a tech supplier, right? They are producing pump and pump equipment, and they are the dominant player on the market, definitely. But they acquired Eurowater, which is a small EPC, or let's say an OEM, some mix out of that. At the same time, the Viola Group, right, which is also a pump supplier, acquired the Abionic Group, which part of the Abionic Group is Martin System, which is MBR technology, which is Licusta, which is a small OEM, which is Steinhardt, which is specialized in products for rainwater harvest, flood protection, and wastewater. Why they did this? And that's a tricky question, because that's definitely horizontal, vertical investment. And I was listening to Markus Brandstätter. He is the CTO of Grundfos, and he said we want to go far beyond from the pump supply point, and in the future by offering our customers everything from individual components to modular system solutions that fit the application from a single source. So we are a system integrator, which is nothing else than an OEM. So I was thinking, really, why? I still didn't got it. And then it came to my mind, which is the predictive maintenance. The predictive maintenance, that is the key word here, because it makes totally sense. It takes totally sense what they did. Because if you want to have predictive maintenance, you need data. And I remember 2 years back on a conference, I was with so many tech suppliers together, and everybody had his own configuration and solution for cloud, for data storage, transmittering, and all this stuff. All of them had their own, but the customer doesn't take care. The customer is looking for an entire solution. And that then it makes absolutely sense, because now both companies are building systems or maybe small plants, and they can collect all the data. And then they can go for a predictive maintenance for their pump and for the equipment. So that means all EPCs I know, they are thinking about how can we do this? Grundfos and Valo, they did it. Congratulations. And I'm pretty sure this will work, and this is the future.
Now, if I take the opposite view of what you just said, let's imagine I am the biggest competitor of Eurowater, and I used to buy Grundfos pumps, but now Grundfos acquires Eurowater. Does that mean I still buy Grundfos pumps?
And this is the same argument if you have someone in your company who is unsatisfied, and he will say, hey, I will leave the company. But to be very blunt, no, you will not leave the company. It's the same. You will not leave your supplier. Because why did you have chosen Grundfos? Because most probably you are very satisfied with the pumps, with the support, with whatever they deliver, right? Same with Velo. Same argument I could have with Suez. If I acquiring the Seaweed membranes and I'm in competition with Veolia, I could say, hey, I'm no longer purchasing the Seaweed membranes because Veolia is in competition. No, you will still purchase the Seaweed membranes because they are one of the best in the market. It's the same with the pumps. They're all saying, I'm very scared about this situation. But in the end, they will go there and they will still acquire the same equipment, even if the strategy has changed.
I get your point. I think it's a bit more complex than that, because you could also, let's say you're Grundfos, or let's say you're pump supplier. Do not give names because I don't know about Grundfos. You're pump supplier and you just acquired an OEM. So nothing to see with what we just said. And you get a request for price from the competitor of the OEM you just acquired. You can give them a shitty price. That way you know that the company, which is your company, is going to win a bit more easier. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here, just to say it's not black and white.
I mean, I I was with so many discussions exactly on this point. But in the end, each and every single company needs to be independent and has to take care about this own business. Doesn't matter whether they belong to Grundfos or not. Eurowater has to take care also about other customers outside the Grundfos
It makes sense.
mother
It makes sense.
headquarter.
It makes sense.
So, and that's the point. So that's why they have to stay independent, and that's why they have to go to someone else, and that's why they, this is always the same argument. I will no longer go there because they are now together with this, but in the end, they are still separated companies. They use the synergies, but in the end, you will go there because they have most probably one of the best products.
Okay,
right?
Björn, case study number 3, which I stopped you 3 times from presenting. This floor
Yeah.
is yours.
We talked in the beginning about these investment structure, right? We have the classical investment, which is just a financial institute who's going to acquire a company, or we have the Grundfos way, which is going, okay, I need, from the strategic point of view, I want to extend my portfolio or my business direction. But there's also a third, and I was saying, okay, it's a kind of hybrid solution, because I came across with, I know this company for us since longer time, but it's Water GmbH, which is a hybrid between a finance institute and a strategic partner or investor. So the company was started in 2011 by acquiring 20% of PAC. PAC and eConvert, I said in the beginning with the Sauer Group and Nius, are the two major anaerobic digester companies on the market. So that means it's a very interesting technology if you are going into the wastewater business. So that they also acquired the Envirochemie group in 2013. So they have an EPC. So they also acquired, or now not really acquired, but they took, and now it comes to our guest from the UK, Eliquo. It was formed out of the Stolz insolvency in 2014. So Stolz had an industrial arm and as well a municipal arm, and the municipal arm was acquired by Skion and was put into the portfolio and is now a Eliquo, right? So in 2016, they made the next major step. They acquired Ovivo. We all know Ovivo is one of the largest APCs we have, right? So it's a huge company. It really counts. Ovivo took Filterbox, and brand new, they took Sembrem. Sembrem is one of the leading ceramic membrane suppliers, and it is also part now of their portfolio. So what they did is, look at this. They did some other acquisitions as well, but I just want to focus here on them.
What about
Look
depth?
at this. They have three, give me a second. They have 3 EPCs, right? They have municipal market covered by Eliquo. They have Envirochemie, which is for wastewater treatment. It's very focused on wastewater treatment on the industrial sites, especially if it comes to food and bath. And they have Ovivo, which is also industrial, but more on the process water side. So they covered the entire market with this acquisition. That's why I said it's a hybrid. So they are looking strategic with the financial capabilities they have.
You're saying they're taking. That costs some money. So how do they do that? How is it through debt, or do they have a pile of cash?
Skion Water belongs to Skion GmbH. Skion GmbH is a classical financial investment company with a revenue of what was it? I can't find the number so far. Was incredible. It was an incredible number because part of Skion GmbH, or no, other way around. The major shareholder of Skion GmbH is Susanne Klatten. Susanne Klatten is everybody in Germany knows her because she's the richest lady in Germany, because she belongs to BMW, and she had a lot of strategic investments in SGL Carbon and in some other really, really cool companies. So his investment is huge. I think it's 2.3 billion. Right? Somehow this. So, and the Skion Water is just part of that, which in total revenue, 230 million revenue yearly, right? But it is, pocket money. A little bit pocket money. Yeah, that's interesting. But I wouldn't say it like this. It is not really a game for her. I mean, look at what they did. They really acquired the key elements from the market, from EPC and from technology perspective, and they brought them together. So they have a vision where they want to go. Because what I see is we have Sauer, we have now Veolia and Suez. Uh, we get another big company who can play a role here.
So you're saying at last there will be a company which is not a French company and which is playing on all those levels. Well,
I would, I,
interesting.
would- I would put some money on that, definitely.
Okay, so
Definitely.
I think
And she's German and she understands the German the German mentality and the German management. So maybe that helps. If maybe she read a little bit the Chinese study. I don't know. I never talked to her.
and maybe she needs some good advice and some good inputs from the water market, and maybe you know a German guy that would be able to do that. And come on, I see where you're heading here.
Yeah. No,
Well,
back. Just one more thing. Back to the ski on GmbH. I have the numbers here. As I said, SGA Carbon, Altana, Nordex. They are huge companies in their portfolio. So they have revenue in 2009 of I think 2.6 billion and just a profit of I don't know 170 million. So their profit only is the same worth as Ski on Water GmbH. Interesting, isn't it?
okay.
So it is a little bit under the radar. They don't, they don't put it on the top and they tell everybody. They do very smart things. What I see from my perspective, and it could be interesting to see this company in 5 years from now.
Okay, I think it's one of those cases when you say we'll see, and you're right. Maybe not 5 years, maybe sooner. We'll see if that works. I mean, I'm having a look on the clock as well. We are towards the end of our show, so let me switch to our third and last question for today. So again, if you're watching live, it's your chance to answer the third and last question. I will start explaining. As soon as you have the answer, just drop it in the chat. The first one to answer gets our nice little prize for today. And if you're watching that in replay, well, that's the moment in time where you write the third good answer. You pack all of that and you send it to me in direct message. You have 1 week to do that. And if by next Tuesday, end of the day, European time, you don't have answered, well, you will miss the nice GF mug and some sweets and probably a bit more. We'll see. So, my last question is the following. I ask you to find which company I'm talking about. It's a company which, if you look at the track record of M&A over the past 15 years, has three top positions. They are the single biggest move there was ever in the water industry over the past 15 years. When they were sold, it was the number one transaction. They had been sold 5 or 6 years before, and that transaction, when they were sold 6 years before, was the number six transaction in the world. In between, so between those two moves where they were sold, they had acquired a US company. And when they acquired that US company, that was the number three transaction in the world. So the same company is number one, number three, and number six in the track records of the M&A of the water industry. That company is a company where people speak a much better English than we do. We do both Björn and me. We had a debate with Björn about if that is really a company or if it's a municipal utility. To my understanding, it is a company because when it was that number one move, it's when they were sold by a German acquirer to another company, and the number six is when they were acquired by that German company. So it might be utilities, but utilities which are private to that extent. So that
Can I give a
company,
hint?
you can give a hint.
This company is named similar to a river which goes through London.
That is quite of a strong hint.
I
That
mean,
company,
you have so difficult questions. So I just want to help our audience, right, to win the
yes,
incredible prize.
it is a river which is going through London. It is one of the, and our winner
We
is
have a winner.
Anthony. Congratulations. So, yes, it was Thames Water. Awesome. So Anthony, Julie, Sheldon, you are our three winners for today. So if you want to receive your prize, just drop me your address where you want me to ship it per direct message on LinkedIn, and I'll do that anytime soon. Don't expect it to be tomorrow because I'm French and lazy, but I'm gonna send it. Yeah, sorry, Julie, you were a bit too late for that one. You don't win the same prize twice, but if you come back next month, we will have a bit more to play. So, Björn, I'm not putting the jingle for the news because we are really already over time. But I'm
Yeah.
asking you, do you have some news to share? If not, I can start, and you can think on your
Well,
news.
what I can share is definitely we will have another episode and another one and another one and another one, because it looks like that you guys really, and this is, as I said in the beginning, we are honored with you that you are coming every month. You're coming and watching and listening to us, and that you are participating. So this is really incredible to us. So what we will do, we will refurbish a little bit our show. Maybe not the next show, but the overnight, or maybe the last one of this year. And we will have a lot of new things. And also, we are looking for a kind of presenter. So if you know someone who maybe wants to present that we can, which can bring us to the next level, we are looking for, or just drop me a mail. So as I said, we are really grateful to have you here. So these are my news.
And I'll give you a different kind of news. We haven't discussed yet about our next topic, so I'm now doing it live, which I should never do. But
Oh,
we
come
had
on.
we had a debate
Oh,
on
yeah.
one of Björn's post, and we are still
Hmm.
having that debate. At some point, I even pieced one of your contacts, and he was rolling his eyes like that guy is the stupidest guy I've ever talked with or discussed with on LinkedIn. So I think that is the kind of topic that we should definitely bring on the next show, because
Yeah.
unlike today, that is definitely a topic where we disagree. So I'd love to have a good fight with you again, because today I was supposed to be the bad cop, so it means next time you are the bad cop. And regarding the news, and we're already really over time, I think to me the biggest news is that somehow the world is reopening a bit in over the past weeks and the weeks to come. I've seen many trade shows which are again gonna be a bit more physical. So don't hesitate if you're going to the next shows, be it Polytech, Aquatech, WebTech. Just drop us a message, because it might be that by accident, whether Björn or me or both of us will be there. So it might be good to see all of you. And as Björn said, we are really grateful to have always more people watching these shows. So it would be really a pleasure to see you physically, for the ones we haven't met physically before all of that. And that being said, we're already 3 minutes over schedule, and there's something which Björn is very, 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 very rigid on, is that we have to stick with the time. So I think that is a nice point to close. Any last thoughts, Björn?
Thanks everybody for being here. I think it was an incredible topic today we discussed, and there's so much movement on the market, and we will stay in contact, and we will discover even more. And if something new come up, we will bring us into the show.
Well, thank you, everyone, and see you very soon.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye.
That was it for another episode of Time for Wastewater. So, what would you like us to debate next? Which water topic shall we put under the spot? Did you like it or did you hate it? And last but not least, is there a matter where you feel your expertise might be a fantastic fit on this stage? Come tell us on LinkedIn. We welcome and praise any feedback. So don't be shy, and see you next month.